we just can't believe you haven't seen it. Every episode, we discuss a movie one of us has seen and the other hasn't. Follow us on Instagram at FlabberPod and subscribe in your podcast app of choice. I'm your guest host, Annie. Let's get to it.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Jess. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to record with you.
Me too. I'm so happy you asked.
So this came about because I think Annie posted on Instagram like your top favorite movies or just top favorite Christmas movies.
It was a trend on Instagram I had seen some people do. It just said like 6 movies to get to know me. And it's like your top 6 movies that like describe who you are as a person. And I happened to put this particular movie as one of my number 1 movies.
So the movie we're talking about today is Love Actually, which totally lined up because it was a Christmas movie, right?
Yes.
But I haven't seen this movie. I've heard about it a lot. I've seen the clips of him doing the signs with Keira Knightley.
Yeah, classic.
A lot.
Yeah.
But I've never actually watched the movie.
Which is nuts.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even check what year this movie was in. Do you know it?
2003.
Oh, look at you go. Yeah. You really liked the movie.
Oh, yeah. My husband and I are actually planning on going this week. AMC is doing a 20th anniversary release of it. So I'll finally get to see it in theaters. Because, I was very young when it came out.
Probably not a movie that you watched when it came out.
Correct.
So how did you come across this movie?
It was a movie. This is kind of silly. But when I was probably in high school, Harry Styles, we all know and love Harry Styles. He, in an interview, had said that it was like his favorite movie. And I was like, oh, I've heard of it. It's like you. I've seen the Sign thing. And I know it's like kind of a British comedy, whatever. But then I told my mom, I was like, oh, Harry Styles says he really likes Love Actually. And my mom was like, oh, you're ready. Like, it's time. So it's actually like it's a movie that my mom really loved when it came out. And so when I was old enough to finally watch R-rated movies, she was like, this is going to be our thing. So it's now kind of a tradition that I watch it with my mom every Christmas.
Oh, see, that's so great. And I feel bad because I'm like, this is not a movie I will probably watch every Christmas.
But that's okay. Everybody's got the one and, that's good.
I love it. Okay, let me read the little blurb. The ultimate romantic comedy follows seemingly unrelated people as their lives begin to intertwine while they fall in and out of love. Affections languish and develop as Christmas draws near.
Yeah.
Okay, so Annie posted on Instagram. I was like, Annie, I've never seen that. You wanna podcast with me? She said yes. I watched the film and here we are. And the first thing I thought when the credits roll, well, actually, I do love the cast. There's a lot of great people.
Oh, yeah.
That are in this cast. But the thing that I thought was Hugh Grant starts with this super cutesy voiceover. I couldn't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's cute. And then we catch the song being sung, right? Isn't that like the next thing that happens? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there is a marketing blunder. Like, why did they not market this song for like everything? And then as I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah. Never mind. They talk about it so much.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for the nudity. I actually was not. I didn't even realize it was rated R.
Yeah. So the first time I watched it with my mom, I probably was maybe too young to see like why it was rated R, all the reasons it was rated R. So she would show me like the TV cut, which totally takes out all of Colin. Colin's the guy that goes to America specifically to get laid.
Yeah. Yeah.
It totally cuts out his storyline and it totally cuts out the stand-in actor. So Martin Freeman, his whole storyline, which, those are both really cute in their own ways. But yeah, so then when I was probably finally 18, I was like, oh my gosh, the real extended, the real director's cut has a lot of nudity.
Yeah. Like, so did you feel like you saw something that you had missed out with those two storylines?
Yes. And I think it's because I'll say it here. And if I get canceled on your podcast, I'm sorry, I'm never coming back. But Colin's storyline is like funny, but it's missable. I'm like, I could take it or leave it. But Martin Freeman's storyline where they're, these stand-in actors for like porn stars, but they're like the two most innocent, like quaint, charming people you've ever met. I love that.
Yeah, they're just so like sort of awkward and very authentic.
Yeah.
Kind of, I really liked them. I did not love I was like, I don't even need this storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even need you in my life right now. I did love the stand-in actors. Although I was also like, I don't really, but it was just cute how they were like in a really sort of awkward situation, but that wasn't really the awkward thing about them.
Yeah.
The awkward thing about them was like trying to like get to know each other, maybe ask, to go on a date. It was just, it's
really cute.
All right, what's next for you? I have like the prime minister gets elected. And then I was like, I should rabbit trail this. When are the elections for prime minister? Because it is an elected office. But then I got distracted with the rest of the movie and I stopped looking for it. So
fair enough. I don't know when you elect a prime minister.
But I also thought it was kind of, okay, I got too far ahead of me, but I did take some notes on my phone. But I thought the prime minister storyline was like kind of interesting. But I also wrote Colin Firth's storyline is crazy. Like, oh no, he goes to the wedding. Mm-hmm. Who goes to the funeral?
Emma Thompson goes to Liam Neeson's wife's funeral.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I like Emma Thompson, and they're at the funeral. And honestly, the first thing I thought of was, how much did she weigh? Because they had only 4 people carrying the casket.
True.
I feel like that's kind of a light. They must be kind of buff. I don't know. But I did, speaking of Liam Neeson's, loved his storyline because the little boy, like, that's the best ever. They were just adorable. The whole thing about love brought them together.
Right.
Even though they were like amongst this grieving process, which I really liked.
Yeah.
So that was great. Okay, sorry, I got totally off track there.
No, you're good.
The 4 people to carry the casket. Oh, I wrote down, that's a choice. That's a choice right there.
Yeah.
Newsflash, there probably was not a body in that casket when they filmed that scene. So they only needed 4 people to carry it.
Yeah. It was just an empty box.
Secret pet peeve of mine is when I watch movies and they're carrying around luggage and they're not being realistic in how much that luggage should appear to weigh. True. Like, listen, it shouldn't look like it's an empty bag. I'm just throwing it out there.
Sure.
But anyways, so I also have a note, like, I like Laura Linney, if I said her name correctly. She's really fun. And I think it's funny that she walks into the office and he's like, let's make this happen. Yeah. You need to go on a date with him. Let's make this happen.
Every time I see that scene, because now, Ian watches it with me every year now. Every time we watch that scene, we think, is there an HR department at this company? Because what if your boss really truly did say, hey, I noticed that you have a crush on your coworker. You guys should totally hook up.
Yeah.
That's
Who
nuts.
says that? I just don't think that would be appropriate. But then I watched Bridget Jones's Diary and I'm like, there's a lot of stuff happening in there that's not really quote work appropriate either. So I don't know. Is that a Britain thing? Is that like British thing? Or
I think it really helps to further the plot. And they're like, this is an easy way to drive the exposition. So,
that's a good point.
Let's just use it.
I was not sure about the like secretary, administrative assistant. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, are you actually flirting with him? Or are you like, I can't really read you very well. And then, the movie goes on. I'm like, oh, that's a choice.
A choice. Again, where is HR?
Right? Not there. They're on a different floor.
Exactly.
Or they've contracted it out and there's no representation at all.
True. We don't know what company they work for. It could be a nonprofit. It could be, you just don't know.
I think it was some kind of newspaper type thing, right?
Yeah, I know, Carl is a graphic designer, and I know in the background it has like people in what seems to be like a third world country, and it says like shoulder their burden. And it's like, okay, you're here to help people and make designs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So you admit after watching this movie for several years that like there's some lacking in the backstory.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. That makes me feel better because my next note is this storytelling is a little disjointed.
Yes, for sure.
I also have a note about Liam Neeson's character again, because I'm like, as a stepfather, if you do not adopt the child, are you a legal guardian?
Yeah, I think the bridge that my brain had to make early on was like the little boy's mom has just passed. I just kind of assume that he's not a child of divorce, and maybe his biological father has also passed. And so like, therefore, Liam Neeson is the guardian in the will, but then, yeah, he would have to take the process and make the steps to legally adopt him. And I
note for our listeners, get your wills around just in case you pass unexpectedly with a child.
Yeah.
Or really just at all. Get your wills around. I did not like the way I felt so bad for Colin Firth when he comes home and he sees I was like, okay, who's this guy? You're talking to a stranger, like very interestingly. It's his brother.
Yeah.
Wait, right?
Yeah.
It's his brother? Okay. I hate that.
Yeah, it's terrible. So for the listeners, if you haven't seen it, Colin Firth leaves for a wedding. You kind of assume, because he's like kind of the first story plot that we see, you kind of assume it's going to be about him. He goes to a wedding and his girlfriend stays behind. She claims that she's sick. And when he stops by in between the ceremony and the reception, and his brother is there saying, I came to pick up some CDs or something. And he's like, oh, so lovely that my girlfriend let you in. And then you find out that they're brothers because he says, offhandedly, like, let's take mom for lunch. And then from an undisclosed place, you hear his girlfriend essentially say, hey, hurry up. We have to finish before Colin Firth gets back.
Colin Firth gets home. Yeah.
And oh, what a gut punch.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to come home to that, especially after he's probably all feeling lovey-dovey because he was just at the wedding.
Yeah.
I didn't love that. What's next? What's your favorite storyline, maybe?
Oh gosh. So this is where I get really deep and philosophical about the movie, because like you said, the storytelling is disjointed. It's very kind of campy, kind of British camp, aughts, all that stuff. But in the first 90 seconds, Hugh Grant makes this beautiful monologue about, I assume it's his like prime minister speech, right? And he talks about, you have to remember it was released in 2003. So he talks about, the planes hitting the two towers. And he says,
I was surprised about that. Like,
right?
There was a very direct reference to that.
Yeah.
Which is also a choice, but like, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
But I was surprised. Anyways, keep going.
It's definitely shocking, and I think it's supposed to be. But while he's saying this monologue, you're watching footage of people in an airport, like leaving each other or reuniting. And those are real people. They just set up cameras and got people to sign releases in airports. So yeah, he says, when the plane hit the towers, I don't believe any of the phone calls were made out of hatred or revenge. They were all of love. And so 90 seconds in, I'm sobbing. For real tears. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It gets me every time. I'm even like, think about it now. Just like, oh my gosh. Cause I was very young when 9/11 happened. But I remember it, and it was, this is very off topic, but it was a very dark time for our country and for the world. And I don't know, seeing that like 2 years later, they made a point to be like, hey, there is so much darkness.
Recognize it in some way.
There's so much darkness, but the core is love. Like, that's just a really powerful statement to open any movie with.
Yes.
Especially one who like so many famous people put their names on, you know, like that's a really cool thing. So, you know, it opens with that. But then what I really love about the whole thing is that it shows every type of love.
I was going to bring this up at some point. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So, okay. We've got sibling love because Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson are siblings. And you kind of see them like not have time for each other, but also like are there for each other in like a hard moment. You have unrequited love. You have Andrew Lincoln, who is in love with his best friend's wife. And he has to wrestle with that. You have a father and son, you have grief, you have lust, you know, all of Colin's whole thing is just sex. You have, again, Emma Thompson and Alan Rickman, you kind of have that adultery plot line. You have friendship, you have new love, you have old love. And then maybe my favorite like moment in the movie where they're like, this is love, is when Billy Mack I do not care at all about his storyline until he realizes that he wants to spend Christmas with his manager because he has spent his whole life with him. And he's like, you're actually the person I love most in the world. You're my best friend. And like, that's because he's there, whether he's popular or not.
Yeah. And they've spent time together. Like it's more than just being his manager. They really, like, he's taking care of him and he's like, this is more than just you being my manager. Like you're my friend. Like you're my guy.
Yeah. That one's really touching. And yeah, so the full circle that you've got Liam Neeson's stepson who will do anything to tell his 10-year-old crush that he likes her before she leaves. That whole thing is tear jerking, and just all these different vignettes of love. You've got Laura Linney, whose brother is mentally ill, and you watch her, in a way, I'm not saying you should sacrifice yourself and be codependent, but you watch her give up what she wants so that she can be there for her brother. And, there's a lot of layers to that, but it's like, sometimes that's what love is,
Yeah, for sure.
And so I don't know. They just touch on every single facet of what love is, good and bad. And it's just a beautiful, you got the language barrier. Colin Firth has a language barrier. Oh my gosh.
That one was so crazy. I couldn't tell if they really didn't understand each other at first because they were talking, like they were repeating after each other. No, they were, how do you want to say it? They were like saying variations of the same thing. And she was like, she jumps in the pond and she's like, I better not be this cold for crappy writing. And he's like, don't do that. It's crappy writing. Yeah. And I just loved that so much. But then at the end, when he's like, first of all, I love that they were learning it for each other.
Yeah.
Like without really having talked to each other, like about their interests. They just sort of, I guess, had this idea of each other in their heads. They learned the language. And then at the end, I'm like, whoa, what now? Will you marry me? Like, wait a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. I don't know about that.
Yeah, no, I think Colin Firth, his character, they set him up with this, like, he's very madly in love with his girlfriend who then cheats on him. And so, like, I'm not so surprised when he's like, I'm going to propose marriage to a woman I met 5 weeks ago. Cause I'm like, he's supposed to be kind of this hopeless romantic, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, like, in my brain, I'm like, maybe, again, not endorsing proposing marriage to someone you met 5 weeks ago. Ever, but it's like he needed someone that was like as in it as he was, and the fact that she also learned his language and was like willing to go feet first with him, like that's so sweet.
That is romantic. I'll give it to you. Yeah. And I get it. Like that makes sense. Well, I guess makes sense is a really generous way to put it, but I buy it when you say it like that, like somebody else to fall, like just dive in with him. And I mean, it's not like they actually got married.
Right, exactly.
Could have been the start of the conversation, right?
Exactly.
It didn't have to be the end of the conversation.
Yeah, maybe he was saying, let's date and talk about marriage in the future.
Like, yeah, I could totally see myself marrying you. Like, let's
talk
see
about
what
it.
it takes to make that happen. Yeah. The other thing that I have that is so romantic. Oh, wait. We didn't really talk about your favorite storyline. You just talked about all of them.
I know I did. But it's so hard to pick one. I think.
Okay, because they're so intertwined.
Yeah. Because everybody knows each other in some way, and like everybody's friends or siblings or neighbors or whatever. I think that's what the movie does so well, is that like, other than Colin, I kind of dread that one. But like when it moves from like scene to scene, I am not like, ugh, dang it. Like, you know, I don't want to hear about this.
Keeps you invested in each of the storylines.
But I think if I had to pick, oh gosh. I mean, I think it's got to be Liam Neeson and his stepson.
I think I agree.
Yeah.
I really love them. And that's my next line is, oh, Titanic is so romantic. And they're talking to each other while they're watching it together.
Yeah.
And well, first of all, I'm like, he might be a little young to be watching the non-TV cut Titanic, but you do you.
Yeah.
You do you. But I just love that they're like, we need Jack and Kate, and they just go for it. I loved that so much.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack and Rose.
Yeah.
Sorry. I went real name and actor name. You knew what I meant.
I did. Yeah. And I think, you know, when you find out that his crush's name is Joanna, which is the same as his mom, that his, you know,
was so adorable.
Yeah. And it's just cute because, you know, Liam Neeson says, you know, I know you're struggling, but like, what's going on? And his son has this monologue of like, I'm in love. And Liam Neeson is like, man, I thought it was worse. And his son says, worse than the total agony of being in love.
Just so dramatic.
But it's so
What grade
cute.
are they supposed to be in? Do we know?
He's like a 5th grader.
Okay. Well, listen, I can't like super relate, but I can like, I remember feelings were kind of complicated in 5th grade.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That happens.
Yeah.
I love that he sort of, catch me if I'm wrong here, but doesn't he say like, I know I'm supposed to be sad about mom?
Yeah.
And I really liked that because grieving isn't like linear.
Yeah.
And it's complicated and it's layered. And so he could totally be sad about his mom and be longing for this connection with, you know, his classmate at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I really liked that they said that. And I liked that Liam Neeson kept talking to him about it because he was encouraging him to like he wasn't judging him for not drowning in his grief about his mom.
Right, exactly.
And I love that. I think it's such a good way to, I don't know, it was judgment free with his son, and what a way to create a safe place for more complicated conversations with your son in the future.
Exactly. And I mean,
like such a stepping stone.
It's also kind of a throwaway line because when he, you know, is like, tell me more details about him. He says, how does she or he feel about you? And I was like, for 2003, that's like really progressive and like good of them to be like, hey, this dad is also going to be accepting of like his son's sexuality someday. And like this dad or this stepdad is like, this is his father and this is where he should be and should feel safe and loved no matter what. And like, again, I know it's supposed to be like a haha, like joke line there, but it's like, that really shows just how unconditionally Liam Neeson will support his stepson.
Yeah. I love that there's so many layers to this movie and it makes me really happy.
Yeah.
I was a little annoyed. I know that we talked about her and her brother and I was like, why are you answering the phone? And then we finally got to see why she was answering the phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I have empathy. I get it. Like you're, like you said, sort of sacrificing the thing that you want. But I'm also like, I think it's a good way to say, like, did she have to do that at that minute? Like, where's the boundary there?
Right.
but she doesn't know because that's kind of what she's always done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she talks about, you know, like our parents are no longer with us and we're Americans living in England. Like, you can just tell that she has been in this like caretaker role for so long. And, you know, Carl says to her, like, you know, it won't make him better. So like, maybe don't answer. And so that's why I'm like, I don't endorse like codependency and, you know, throwing away your life to take care of someone else. But I can empathize with that of like, you know, if you don't know what those boundaries look like and you don't really know what you want outside of being a caretaker for someone you love, then like, what are you going to do? You know?
Mm-hmm. It makes me notice though, that if she doesn't start opening herself up to other people, it's only ever going to be her and her brother.
Exactly.
And that makes me a little sad because at some point she's going to need support too.
Yeah.
And I think like as humans, I don't understand why we do this, but more often than not, if I think about my friends and I try to reach out if I haven't heard from them in a while, because for whatever reason, when we're struggling, we like pull away from people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Now, like, that's when you need to just make the connection. And even if you're not having the full conversation, even if you're not like right there next to them, just having the connection can be helpful. So it makes me wonder, like, for her next, like, the next time this happens, maybe she'll find it a little bit easier to, hopefully there's next time.
Yeah.
She'll find it a little bit easier to maybe not pick up the phone or maybe try to open up a little bit to somebody, even if it's not somebody as handsome as he was, even if it's just a friend.
Yeah, I would buy that. I mean, I think that's also, again, a layer. This movie's like lasagna, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's another layer to her storyline is, you know, she's been in love with this guy named Carl for as long as she's been at this company, which is like almost, you know, it's like 2.5 years or something. And they finally decide he takes her home and they're going to hook up after this Christmas party. And, you know, they're both very excited about it. But in my brain, I'm like, you've pined after this man for so long. You don't want to get to know each other.
Right.
You know,
you have this idea of who he is.
Exactly. And it's like, you know, yeah, Christmas party, hook up. I understand that things happen, I guess, but it's like you have spent so much of your time hoping to fall in love with this man and like seeing your future with this man. You don't want to get to know him, you know? And again, like, even if they are like kissing on the sofa bed or whatever, and her brother calls, they do kind of have this conversation of like, my brother's not well. I just, you know, I'm kind of here for him. And Carl says, you know, I understand life is full of complications. And then they go right back to kissing. And I'm like, slow it down, you guys. Figure this out first.
That one was interesting.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the president putting the moves on? Oh gosh, I forgot her name.
Natalie.
The prime minister's Natalie. Yes. Natalie. Yeah.
So that's also one of my favorite storylines. I mean, I would say Liam Neeson, Hugh Grant, Colin Firth, those storylines are the A+ ones.
The top.
But yeah, Billy Bob Thornton plays the American president who comes for like a conference, and we don't really know what they're supposed to like.
We have no clue what they're talking about.
But it's very like, we're not going to move this line, and we're, you know, it's very, but it's
America
vague.
is not doing something that Britain wants them to do, and Britain really wants them to do it. And people think that the prime minister should be like, you need to do this, and take a hard, you know, like line with the president, like that you need to do this. And the American president's like, listen, we're not even going to entertain this. It's just not even a thing.
Yeah. And so I think it's funny that they got Billy Bob Thornton to do it, and he does it so well. He's very obviously supposed to be a Clinton type president. He's got the kind of like drawl that Clinton has. And he then also tries to make a move on the prime minister's catering manager, who the prime minister is also kind of crushing on. So it's this like it's funny watching it as an American, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, you know, sometimes our presidents are not great. Like sometimes we have weird guys in there.
Sometimes. Yeah.
But like, you know, he's there. It's the president and the prime minister alone in a room. Hugh Grant steps out for, I think we've counted before, my mom and I think he's gone for like 20 seconds tops. And Natalie comes in, they like pass each other on the way out. And by the time he gets back in, the president's already like leaning in to try and kiss her neck, basically. And she's kind of standing there in shock. Like she doesn't really know what to do. And, you know, she gets excused, and the next, you know, day at the press conference, the British people ask, Mr. President, did you have a great time? And he's like, yeah, we had a great time. I'm still kind of a bully. And then Hugh Grant goes into this, again, a beautiful monologue about like all the things.
He's got some of the best lines in the movie.
Truly. And he has this monologue about, you know, we're a great country full of the Beatles, Sean Connery, Harry Potter, David Beckham's right foot, David Beckham's left foot.
I did love that little bit. Yeah. I was like, okay, this is delightful.
Yes. And so, and I mean, he basically says like, I will go to war with the president, like in so many words. I think he says, because bullies only respond to strength, in the future, I prepare to be much stronger. Ooh.
What a way to say, like, I recognize that maybe I haven't been as strong as my constituents feel like I need to be, and I'm going to remedy that going forward. Like he has, again, some of the best lines in this movie.
Yes. And then, you know, it goes on that he kind of redistributes Natalie. He feels like he can no longer kind of flirt with her and crush on her.
Which, what a way to say redistribute. Like, okay, weird. That's just weird. And then I did not love, I have to tell you, the office manager or whatever is like the heavy one, or what did she say? Like
the chubby one.
The chubby one. They make so many cracks about her being chubby. Yes. And I'm like, who are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Like, she looks very pretty.
Yeah, she is like, she's a normal looking person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she is normal and even slightly thinner than normal. And she has a joke about, oh, my boyfriend left me because he said I was getting fat and that I have thighs as big as tree trunks. And then the office manager, whose name is Annie, regrettably, says, yeah, she's chubby and she has huge thighs. Her family makes a joke. They call her Plumpy.
I don't love that. And I'm just thinking, like, this is how people talk about her behind her back and in front of her face.
Exactly.
But I'm also like, how demeaning, maybe?
Yeah.
To put her in, like, for that to be her sole identifier.
When she's not even...
Like, that's all that makes her up of who she is. There are no other descriptors.
I know. And
to throw in.
And it's also not a good message to send to young women who were watching it like me, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's just, you know, I know, again, the aughts were just the time to like body shame women and to be like, you know, if you're over a size 6, then you're fat, basically. But I don't know. I think for a long time I chose to believe that they made that joke because she's very obviously not fat, you know? But then I'm like,
making it an ironic type thing.
But then you pair her next to 17-year-old Keira Knightley, who's supposed to be playing the same age. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And Keira Knightley is
not any, like, you could blow her over.
Exactly. No one
in this movie.
No one who is 26 looks like how they looked at 17. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, let's stop perpetuating that
image. Yeah. That's I think in the whole movie, that was the one thing that I was just, that and the Colin storyline, not Colin Firth. Don't be confused here. That and the Colin storyline were the things that I was just like, I could totally do without this. And only the Colin, because it didn't really, like, it was kind of funny, but I was like, dude, you're just you're kind of creepy. He was kind of giving me creeper vibes.
Oh,
and
no,
if he wasn't being creepy, I would have been like, okay, we're down. Get laid. Go for it. But he was being creepy, and I didn't love that. But that, and then it just didn't age well with all of the fat jokes about her, which I thought, first of all, like, I think it was just unrealistic. So
yeah, it was.
That bummed me out. And then I'm like, what would my identifiers be if people were talking about me and they're like, oh yeah, Jessica. And they're like, the short one. Right? That would probably be the big one. And I'm like, so that's just an interesting little tangent that this movie got me thinking about.
Yeah.
But
I always got, the girl that looks like a meerkat.
A meerkat?
Oh yeah. I got that all the time in high school. Annie, you look like a meerkat. I think it's because I was tall and a little twitchy.
Tall and a little twitchy. Oh man.
I was just hyper aware,
I think you're beautiful, Annie.
I think you're
I've
beautiful,
missed seeing
Jess.
your face. Oh man. Okay, so the other storyline that I did not super love, but I did love is Emma Thompson's storyline.
Oh gosh. This one might get me crying if I think about it too much. Yeah, no, go for it.
No, hold on. I'm just scrolling through the rest of my notes. She's just this pillar for people that just aren't even her. And I just feel like she deserves to be treasured and recognized for that.
Yeah.
She thinks like her husband comes home and they're chatting, which it surprised me that was her husband, because we didn't see that until later on. We got the intro to both of the characters. And we didn't see that until later on. They're talking to each other, but they're not like, I don't know what the word is. They're talking to each other, acknowledging each other, but they're not romantic in any way.
Right.
They're not really friendly in any way.
Yeah.
Like they're just like sort of, this is what it is, cordial
acquaintances. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of a bummer. And then they go shopping and he's picking out the necklace, which by the way, ugliest necklace
I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that's your style, but okay. And then the guy is taking forever to pack it up, which I appreciate. Love that.
Yeah.
But also I totally understand. Like I totally related to the person that is helping check you out. And I try to keep this in check because they are people too.
Exactly.
They're just trying to talk to you and you're just trying to like get your groceries and leave.
Yeah.
And so I relate to both sides of that interaction.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I think is hilarious.
Rowan Atkinson, a king of comedy.
Oh, yes. Like, yeah, amazing. Like, without even trying, amazing. Yeah. And she finds the necklace in his pocket, and she goes to pick out her thing under the tree. Guess what? Not a necklace. And you just see instantly, like, she processes it. She's like, you know what? I'll be back. Give me just a minute. I got to go.
Yeah.
And she just breaks down, and then she gives herself a couple minutes, and she, like, locks it up.
Yep.
And I'm like, first thing I wanted to say is, I am not a person that can cry and then it doesn't look like I've been crying.
Sure.
So I don't know how she did that, but that was amazing. Probably because they weren't actually real tears.
Movie magic.
Movie magic. But I think there are people that like really can do that. And I don't know, that was just crazy to me. And then she doesn't get to process this relationship or what's happening at all.
Right.
Because people are counting on her to do things that she has to do.
Yeah.
So like, I grieve for her in that way because I'm like, if you've ever been in a situation and it's taking you a minute to process, but you really can't because you have to go do whatever you got to do. And then you're like, it's in the back of your head, just like rolling around though. And you just don't know. And it's right there. And so, yeah, Emma Thompson's storyline, probably one of the most, like feeling-y storylines, but not necessarily my favorite. But I get it.
Yeah, she definitely, out of every single person in the entire movie, gets done the dirtiest by far, especially because at the end you see that they're still together, but even unhappier than they were before. And it's like, you don't know. Is he still continuing a relationship with his assistant? Is she planning on leaving him? Like, we don't know.
Yes, there's so much like unresolved right there.
Exactly. Like just in like the couple lines they have at the end. And the thing that really, my mom loves Emma Thompson just as a person. So this is definitely, shout out mom if she listens to this podcast. She loves this storyline, but especially because, little fun fact that's not so fun. right around this time was when Emma Thompson found out that her husband, Kenneth Branagh, had cheated on her with Helena Bonham Carter.
What?
Yeah. And those are all names you know, and they're all in Harry Potter, and they all had to work together.
Is that the Harry Potter movie that he was in? Did that happen around the same time?
Yeah. I mean, let's see. Chamber of Secrets probably was 2002 or 2003. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, Emma Thompson and Kenneth Branagh were married. I don't know how long. And then he famously cheated with Helena Bonham Carter. And it was around that time that she was filming Love Actually. So that scene where she's listening to Joni Mitchell and I've Looked at Love That Way, which is just a heartbreaking song in and of itself. But you see these like family photos of, them and the kids and all that stuff. And all you can think about when you know that tidbit is like, Emma was really living that.
Oh yeah.
And like, oh my gosh, what a thing to have to film when you're actually going through something like that.
Right. Like so raw, which maybe is why she's so like captivating at it. Like you connect with it.
Yeah. It's because it feels real, and maybe because it is. But yeah. And you're right. Like she's just like, she's a pillar in their home. She's a stay-at-home mom. She makes her kids' nativity costumes from scratch.
A lobster?
One of them's a lobster. Yeah.
What the heck?
And then you find out early on in the movie that she's like the best friend or like a childhood friend of Liam Neeson. So she's there at his wife's funeral and she goes over and helps him process. And it's like, she's there for so many different people and wants to connect with her husband. That's the hardest thing too. A small thing to catch is they show them like sleeping together one night and she's turned towards him and he's turned away from her, which, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. We all sleep on one side. It doesn't, don't read into it too much. But in the movie, I'm reading into it that she's, she's reaching out towards his side of the bed and he's like shutting her out. And that's, heartbreaking. But like, again, it's showing that part of love where it's like, sometimes the sour part of love of, being taken for granted. And, she has a great monologue too of like, if you're in my position, like, do you cut and run or do you stay and know that life is always a little worse if you do? Like, what a thing to say.
Well, also like what a way to confront it too. Yeah. Like, she just totally nails it and just like has the conversation. She doesn't really have the conversation. There's not a conversation. Yeah. She tells him, I know this is what I'm dealing with now. And then she walks away to continue to be there for her children. Yeah. But I love that she had that because I love that it blindsided him.
Yeah.
Because she was blindsided.
Exactly.
And I just love that because I felt like you just get those moments where somebody does something horrible and you can never really zing them back. And I don't mean like you should fight fire with fire necessarily, but sometimes it's just like you feel like you let them walk all over you or something.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it was very vindicating that she was able to say something. And also like what courage to actually say something to him.
Yeah.
Versus just ignoring it. Like she gave it words, right?
Right.
So instead of just ignoring it, I don't know. I think that's a big deal. It's something worth noting.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And the real zinger that she gives him is, he eventually talks and says like, I've been the fool here. And she says, yes, but you've made the life that I lead foolish too. Because, like she says, like she's a stay-at-home mom. She's raising their children. She's sacrificing every day for like the life that they built together. And he's just cut it down.
Yep.
And I, again, for the viewers or the listeners that have not seen it, it's not believed that he ever does actually not entertain. We don't know if he ever physically cheats, it's like he kind of flirts with his assistant and then he buys her a necklace. And that's enough to be like, yikes. Right. But I think that like vagueness of like, she even says like, we don't really know how far the cheating went. the movie doesn't allow us to know that, because in the end, it doesn't matter. You know, he's broken a piece of her trust, and it's broken.
Yeah. And their relationship is definitely less than it was before, when she thought that even though we aren't like connecting the way we want, we're still in it together.
Right.
The friend, Andrew Lincoln.
Oh boy. I knew we would get to him eventually.
I always this is the one thing everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is the most romantic gesture. Like even the Ted Lasso Christmas episode did like a little nod to the signs, which I thought was cute. And everybody's like, this is the most romantic thing ever. And I'm watching this storyline and I'm like, one, he's super great friends. I mean, you're led to believe like he's super good friends with the groom.
He's like best friends with the groom.
It's adorable. Like, but they're like tight best friends. They're not just like, oh, we're buddies.
He's
they're
like his best man.
He loves him.
Yeah.
They love each other. They are with each other.
Yeah.
Like in life, they're with each other. And I love the Keira Knightley characters. Like, I don't know why you don't like me. We've got to make something work.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, I'm like, I go back and forth on this because I'm like, what a jerk. Like, just be nice to her. But this is literally a defense mechanism for him because he's trying not to feel the feelings.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, I understand it, but I don't like it. And then she watches the video, which I even like wrote down. I'm like, okay, so now we know why there are no shots of the best friend. Like, this is why he's being a jerk to her. Like, which you don't ever actually see him, like, it's not like he's being outright mean.
He just is very withholding.
Yeah, like very, very guarded.
Yeah.
And kind of like snooty. This is a very interesting dynamic when she's like, we've got to, like, we should at least be friends because you're going to be like,
yeah,
we're not going to be out of each other's lives with the way these relationships work.
Your best friend is my husband now.
Yeah, like we've got to at least kind of like each other. And so he leaves the loft or whatever after they look at the footage, and he's so torn up. I felt like we're really seeing the conflict that he's dealing with. Yeah. Like, he was really trying to hide that and not let anybody know. And then, the whole thing explodes. He knocks on the door. This is what I don't love. In the signs, he makes a comment like, we get it. They're cute little signs. Very prankster, very on brand. Yes. Also, the wedding, like, he organized the walkout with the extra music playing.
Yeah, he's an over-the-top kind of guy.
Yes, and he is a romantic guy, so I loved that about him. He's going through the signs, and he says something like, you'll be perfect to me always. Yeah. Or something like that. And I was like, okay, I was with you until you hit that card. Mm-hmm. Because the rest of the cards make it seem like he's really trying to let her go. Yeah. But they've acknowledged it now that he's got this unrequited love for her. Yeah. And that he's trying to let it go. But then he says, you'll be perfect to me always. Yeah. So way to make it awkward. Yeah. Like, if you had just said, like, this is how I feel about you, whatever, fine, okay. But then it got a little creepy. He goes to leave and she comes and kisses him on the mouth. Yeah. Which I'm also like, no, this is weird. Because then you're just never going to tell your husband that you kissed him?
His
and
best
you're never
friend?
Gonna tell. Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like I was along with that storyline, and then I was like, yeah. You kind of like I think they could have done it better.
So I have a weird history with this particular storyline. Because when I watched it as a young teenager into early college, maybe, you have your share of heartbreaks. You have your share of unrequited love. You have these things that you like. I am a very
the crush on your friend's beau.
No, I don't think I ever had that. Okay.
Just check it. I mean, because that happens. Like, that's not a crazy concept.
But I'm a romantic in that I'm like, I always want the people that meant something to me to I want to say these things to them, but you can't because life. Right. And so I remember watching it, as a young person and being like, oh my gosh, like this is, so beautiful. And, it's, he's letting go because he's like afraid of losing her altogether. And she kisses him and he tells himself enough now, like leave it be. But as a teenager, I was like, he's saying that that's enough for now, that he's going to try and get her back some more. But now as like a full blown adult with a fully cooked prefrontal cortex.
Right. Emphasis on that.
Yes. I don't love it. And it's because, like you said, yeah, I totally get the self-preservation thing. I think in a way we've all been there, like I don't want to be hurt and I don't want to hurt anyone else. So like, I'm going to kind of become someone I'm not. Totally get that. Totally understandable. But like when they watch the footage and you realize the whole day he's been filming just her. Creepy. First of all, creepy. Even if you're in love with your best friend's partner, it's their wedding day. Film both of them, please.
Right.
Weird. And then, the card thing, that's the part of the movie that everybody parodies, that's the kind of memorable thing. But when you actually watch the movie and you realize the context in which he's doing it, first of all, how did he know that his friend wasn't going to answer the door?
Right. What
if his friend answered the door? You're just going to be like, oh, hey, here's some cards in a boombox. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Weird. And then, I also am on the train with him because he kind of alludes to, that he was kind of just in love with the way she looked, right? Like he never let himself get to know her because he was already kind of in love with the idea of her. But then he goes a step further and he says, like, to me, you are perfect. And my wasted heart will love you forever. And it's like,
oh, that's the line. Yes.
Yeah. It's like,
love you forever.
Yeah. It's like, nope. And then, when she like kind of, the kiss is very much like a closure kiss of like a, hey, thanks for telling me. I care about you too.
Definitely still a kiss.
Definitely still a kiss on the lips. You could have just been like, hey, you know what? Come inside and watch TV with me and my husband. Let's tell him. And let's the three of us,
get used to being together.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's like, I'm going to let him walk into the night with a kiss from me, this girl that he's idolized from a distance. Yuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't love that. I did like at the end, though, that he goes with them to pick up Colin Firth,
their friend.
From the hospital. No, not from the hospital.
From the airport.
From the airport.
Yes.
And it did seem like at that point they were in a better place. So I just try to like hold on to that piece, right, that they're in a better place relationship wise and it all worked out. And that was just a weird thing that happened.
Yeah. Again, the young romantic in me was like, wow, what a beautiful thing to do to somebody. But again, as an adult, I'm like, what a weird thing to do to somebody.
Well, I think you made the comment, you said, I don't even remember how you said it, but the note that I wrote down was, at what point is what you say to somebody for them and at what point is it for you?
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes the difference between, are you acting selfishly or selflessly? And then there's obviously that balance, because at the same time, you shouldn't be making decisions for that other person either.
Exactly. It's like, absolutely.
There's a balance.
Absolutely get it off your chest. You're totally allowed to be like, you know what? I'm fully confronting these feelings I've had for this person. Do it in a counseling center. Do it to a trusted therapist. Don't do it to the person who will take that and run with it.
Right. There are appropriate avenues to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Hey, even your other friends would be acceptable to let them know, and maybe they could help run interference for you.
Yeah. But I don't know. For me, it's like, hey, sometimes you're allowed to get things off your chest, but sometimes getting them off your chest will hurt you and others more.
Yeah.
So don't.
Exactly. So don't. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Be more like Emma Thompson. Yes. Two more notes that I had, Sam learns to play the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Aww.
Ringo rocks.
And the other guy learns a language. So I'm like, Jeremy, what have you learned for me, honey pie?
Nice.
What have you learned to show me you love me, babe? But I do think that's super cute, like super cute gestures. And I wrote that down. And my last note is Colin Firth is like a good movie kisser.
He is. You're right.
Like he has good kisses in movies.
You're right. I don't know if I've ever thought about that all that much. Because honestly, my first big Colin Firth exposure was Mamma Mia.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting.
You have to remember I was a child in the aughts.
I know. I forget this when we chat. But yeah, Mamma Mia is as your first like Colin Firth is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know because I think of him obviously as Mr. Darcy, which is the thing. But I also think of him in like the Bridget Jones movies.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about he just seems to like have a good movie kiss.
He does. He's got the smolder down somehow.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I wonder if like I should have Googled it to see if like it's a thing that people think about him. But
do we all agree that Colin Firth is a good on-screen kisser?
Yeah. Do we? I don't know. And Hugh Grant also is like a lovely, like romantic comedy interest guy. Like
for sure.
He always plays the comedy in a very good way. Like, just low key, but
his little dance break in the movie, classic.
Yes, loved that.
We watched it just this weekend to prepare for the podcast, and Ian was like, Hugh Grant is an amazing dancer. And I was like, all he really does is like stick his arms out and jiggle his pelvis around. And Ian's like, yeah, I think that's the key.
It was very, like
awkward, but charming.
Well, because I think he'd committed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He was just like, I'm just going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to dance and it's for me. It's not for anybody else. And I think people are drawn to authenticity.
Yeah.
And so when they see him doing this, even though he's an actor and you don't know if that's how he really dances in real life, they connect because it definitely seems like how that character should be dancing.
Exactly. Well, and Hugh Grant in everything he does is awkward yet charming. That's his whole shtick. So it's like, of course, we're going to want to watch you dance down a flight of stairs.
Yes, I loved it. Okay, that's all of my notes for Love Actually.
Oh, man. Wow.
Do you have any you want to add?
The only thing I feel like we haven't fully touched on is, the ending scene. We get kind of a curtain call. 1 month after Christmas. So the big climax of everybody falling in love and all the stuff happening is on Christmas. Liam Neeson jokes throughout the whole thing that he's going to remarry Claudia Schiffer. And then he meets Claudia Schiffer, playing a random mom, which, that's a fun little sprinkle in there.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I do love that they connect at the end of the Christmas party, I think. They connect, or at the beginning.
They connect after they're like at the school play. Like they both have sons in the play. Yeah,
and she's like, "Don't worry, we'll talk again." And he's like, "We will." And she's like, "I'll make sure of it."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh, like he needed that."
Yeah, and the fact that he quips several times that he's gonna date Claudia Schiffer, and then they got her to be this mom at the play.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so then 1 month later, you see all these people kind of in the curtain call reuniting, and they're all in the airport. So, you have the opening with just all these, strangers, again, people that just signed release forms saying, you can film me at the airport. And then you get all the, big names in British film meeting at the airport. And, you see Emma Thompson, you don't really know where it's going, but she's still not happy. You see Colin Firth and all of that love triangle connect. You see that Martin Freeman is engaged now, and
which is crazy. Also, we didn't actually talk about him, but I do like him.
Like that storyline?
Him as an actor.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like we didn't talk about his acting chops. Which I just like. He was so good in I don't know, everything I've seen him in, which probably isn't a ton, but obviously, he's good.
Well, in Love Actually, I feel like is kind of the thing that maybe I'm totally wrong and people are going to roast me for this too, but I feel like Love Actually was kind of his first big like blockbuster, you know, like this was kind of the first time that he shot into that stratosphere of like, I'm with the big names and I'm, you know, and yeah, he plays his part so well. And again, like I said, I'm upset that I didn't, even though there is a lot of nudity with his, you know, it's like you are missing something when you don't see that, those snippets, because it's just lovely. But you get this curtain call at the airport, and then the film plays God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. God Only Knows What I'd Be Without You. Which is amazing. Oh my gosh. And they go back to showing all these civilians, all these people in the airport. Like you see fathers and grandfathers and children and sisters and brothers, and everybody's just hugging and crying and happy, and it, you know, zooms out, and oh my gosh,
they're just so happy to see whoever it is they're there to see.
Yeah. And it's just,
and there's love. And I got to tell you, picking somebody up from the airport, that is love.
Absolutely. You don't pick anybody up from the airport.
Yeah. That is an act of love in itself. I did not expect the little girlfriend, Joanna, to be coming back after a month. Like, they sort of led me to believe that she was just like, she was moving forever. She's going to America.
Yeah, no idea. I don't know what her parents do. I don't know why they keep going back and forth between America and England, but it works out for Sam.
Yes, good for him. Oh, and I love that they're there with the other guy, the other classmate, and his potential new girlfriend. Yeah, and they're like, oh, there she is, and I'm like, oh,
yeah, it's very cute. Well, and we also didn't talk about this as much, but when Sam runs through the airport, and the only way he's able to do that is because Rowan Atkinson, who the only time we've seen him is when he's stalling Alan Rickman.
Yes.
Comes in and like distracts the security guard. And
what a fun way to like include his character again.
Yeah.
You know, because you like him, you want to see him, and it's just another fun like nod to his character that he gets to do that too.
And he gives Liam Neeson kind of a knowing look of like, I always say he's like the Clarence of, he's like the guardian angel of Love Actually, you know?
Oh yes, I love that.
So yeah, for me, it is a classic. It is my Christmas movie. My other Christmas movie is A Muppet Christmas Carol, which I know is being talked about on the
We just released
pod.
that episode, in fact.
Oh, is it released?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know what I'm doing right after this. Yeah.
So I have to say, talking to you, like I watched it and I'm like, blah, this is cute. Some of these storylines are okay. I don't know if this is like classic Christmas movie, but after talking to you, I think I probably will watch it at least one more time. Cause I agree about like the layeredness, and maybe like I just need to be in a different kind of mood to like really appreciate it, which I did appreciate it. It's just not one that I'm going to probably watch every Christmas, but I think I might watch it again just to like give it another shot.
And I totally don't blame you. I do think that I just happened to watch it for the first time at a very formative age. It was, you know, again, the young romantic in me was like, wow, what a beautiful thing. And then, you know, the older I get, the more I'm like, this is corny. There are some plots where like I was talking to a friend of mine, I think a couple years ago, and they said something like, a lot of those plot points are kind of selfish. And they were referring to specifically Andrew Lincoln's with the signage. And I'm like, you're right. They like, some of them are really selfish, but like some of them, like Laura Linney's, are almost not selfish enough.
Yeah.
You know, and it's showing all of these complexities of like love, and, you know, real love isn't selfish and real love isn't codependent, and it's none of those things, but all of those things play into what love is.
Yeah, all of those things play into what love is. It's not just defined in any one action or one thing.
Right.
It's a layered, it's complicated. I mean, it's complicated, but it's simple. Like you love somebody, but how you show it and how people see it and understand it is what's complicated, I think.
Yeah, humanity is just complicated.
It's interpreted in so many different ways. So I do appreciate that about the film. I also have to say, Annie, I feel very kindred with you today because you were like, this is probably too deep. It's supposed to be a fun, haha, cutesy. And I totally relate to that because sometimes I watch a movie and I'm like, something strikes so deep for me and I connect with it so well so I relate to you saying that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And appreciate it.
Absolutely. Again, shout out to my mother. I am the daughter of an English teacher. So everything I watch has like 8 million meanings about what it means to be a human being.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So does your mom still love it the same way that she did like back when you watched it together for the first time? Or is she kind of like,
No, I think she was excited to watch it with me. Like the first time we ever watched together, I think it was more that she was excited that like we had a potential new girls movie. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if she was as deeply connected to it as we are now. It was just kind of like, oh, I know that movie and I like it. And like, now my daughter's old enough to see it. Let's do it. But now it's like, I only see my parents once a month ish. And my mom made it a point. She's like, I was just up there this weekend. We watched it together. She made it a point. She's like, you can come up for any reason. But we are going to be sitting down and watching Love Actually. So yeah, I mean, I think the reason that I love it so much, and that's why I'm like, I don't care if anyone else thinks it's like missable or fluffy. It's because the core
memories you have associated with it.
The core memory is like, I watch it with my mother and like, who do I love more than my mother?
Right.
So yeah.
Right. I was talking to somebody about that. These movies that we feel like are these huge things. And Rogie and I talk about this too. Like, did we love it because of what was happening at the time and it just like became part of that experience? Or is it really a good movie and we actually like the movie?
Right. Yeah. I typically watch movies because of the way they make me feel. I do not care if they're good movies or not.
See, I think I resonate with that too, because Jeremy will say that my movie standards are very lacking. They're very low. But I think his are very, very high. So
Jeremy,
it's a wonder it's a wonder that that's one of the things that we enjoy doing with each other so much is going to see movies. Yeah. So interesting. But if you listeners would like to call and comment, you can call 240-MOVIE-76. You can also text that number 240-668-4376. And you can message us on the Instagram at FlabberPod and listen to us, wherever you download your podcasts. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for chatting with me, Annie.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
For sure, this won't be the last time.
No way.
Okay, love it. All right, bye, everyone.